Kufr means disbelief, rejection and denial of Islam after it has been properly presented and explained. Islamic scholars usually refer to verse 136 of Surah An-Nisa for the definition of Kufr, where it says, "Man yakfur billahi wa malaikatihi wa kutubihi wa rusulihi wal yawm al-akhir." Anyone who denies Allah, His angels, His books, His apostles, and the Day of Judgment. There are literally hundreds of verses about Kufr in the Quran that make it abundantly clear that not believing is a terrible crime that will be punished by eternal and excruciating torture. These are just a few. Those who reject faith in the signs of Allah will suffer the severest penalty, and Allah is exalted in might, Lord of retribution. Those who reject the book and the revelations with which we sent our messengers, soon shall they know, when the yokes shall be round their necks and the chains, they shall be dragged along in the boiling fetid fluid, then in the fire they shall be burned. But why is disbelief such a terrible crime? What exactly has the disbeliever done to warrant such an appalling punishment? Belief is not something we have complete control over, and one cannot simply choose to believe something that one finds unbelievable. For example, we cannot choose to believe that grass is made of chocolate, nor can we believe that dolphins live in trees. There are other issues that are not so clear-cut, where we have less evidence, for example. In these cases, there may be an element of doubt whether to believe or disbelieve, though that still doesn't mean it's a simple matter of choice. For example, if I told you that there were invisible fairies living in my back garden, and that I know this because my great-great-grandfather left me a note which he got from them, saying, "Hello, we are fairies and we live in your back garden." Some might argue that there is an element of doubt here, since there is no conclusive evidence that fairies don't exist, and there are actually people who believe in them. But in such a case, we don't simply choose what to believe. Each of us weighs up the evidence as we see it. We compare the arguments we've heard and filter this through our cultural references or emotional responses that are peculiar to us as a person. We then either believe or disbelieve based on that. Whether it turns out that fairies do exist, it would be totally unreasonable to torture anyone who reached the wrong conclusion. At worst, they would be guilty of nothing more than mistaken or faulty reasoning. In other words, belief and disbelief has nothing to do with being an evil or bad person, and no one in their right mind would say that people with faulty reasoning deserve to be punished. Some equate disbelief with being ungrateful, but Christians, Hindus and deists of all types would argue that they are very grateful to God. Atheists too would argue that they are grateful, though they direct their gratitude towards the person they perceive as responsible, rather than a God they don't believe exists. So these people are not guilty of ingratitude. But perhaps the most ridiculous explanation is that Kufr means people who know Islam is true but hide it. Kufr comes from a root meaning to cover up and hide, so they argue it implies a willful and malicious intent. People who know Islam is true but intentionally hide the truth. If this were true, then they must be insane. No person of sound mind would knowingly choose to be tortured in the most agonizing way for all eternity. So if this really is the case, then Allah will be torturing mad people. It is amazing how much scorn, contempt and hatred the Quran directs towards Kufr, and as a result, how emotive the words Kufr and Kafir are for Muslims. Yet, when you actually get past this emotion, there really is no logical reason why disbelief should be considered such a horrendous crime, even if Islam were true. The fact that the Quran spends so much time condemning disbelievers to the most obscene eternal torture only serves to emphasize that it is not.
Would you please take me away from this place? I cannot bear to see the look upon your faces. And if there is some kind of God, do you think he's pleased when he looks down on us? I wonder what he sees. Do you think he'd think the things we do are a waste of time? Maybe he'd think that we are getting on just fine.